Building enterprise software today is an exercise in managing chaos. You are dealing with massive deployments of cloud infrastructure, thousands of microservices, and connected IoT devices that create an overwhelming, tangled web of dependencies. When individual teams build their projects in a vacuum, the results hit the balance sheet hard. You end up paying for duplicated infrastructure, maintaining fragmented technology stacks, and deploying systems that have completely lost sight of your actual business goals. To solve this, you have to zoom out. Instead of focusing on single, isolated systems, you have to view your technology through the lens of an architecture collection, the entire portfolio of highly interdependent systems your organization operates. Governing at this macro level is how you enforce common standards, maximize the reuse of existing components, and stop paying to build the exact same basic database structure 3 different times across 3 different departments. But how exactly do you exert control over a sprawling portfolio of interconnected architectures without completely crushing the speed and innovation of the developers on the ground? The ISO 42020 standard provides a systematic framework for this. It defines the specific processes required to plan, control, and manage your entire architecture collection, linking high-level strategy directly to the codebase. Mastering this scale of enterprise IT requires splitting your authority into 2 highly distinct forces: architecture governance and architecture management. Governance lives at the strategic executive level, with the board, the CIO, and review committees. Their entire focus is answering one specific question: are we doing the right things to survive and grow? To execute their vision, this executive group sets the overarching objectives for the collection and pushes down mandatory governance directives that the rest of the company must obey. If you let executives hand these broad, abstract directives directly to the software developers on the ground, you get immediate operational chaos. High-level business strategy completely lacks the technical constraints and specific details required to build functional software. That's why directives first hit a translation layer: architecture management. Their tactical focus is, are we doing things right? Management translates abstract policies into specific engineering instructions. These refined instructions reach the execution level, serving as strict blueprints to conceptualize, evaluate, and elaborate system architectures. Management can enforce this rigid workflow because their authority is formalized in an architecture charter, a mandate ensuring instructions aren't treated as optional. For boardroom strategy to become functional software, it must pass through this exact translation cascade. But the standard doesn't stop with a top-down waterfall. It immediately engages a cybernetic control loop, feeding reality back up the chain. The execution level is messy. Development teams run out of budget and hit hard technical constraints. They uncover deep software limitations that make the original executive plan impossible to build. Those teams compile their harsh realities into execution status reports and send them back up to the management layer. Management receives this data, checks it for compliance, analyzes its effectiveness, and aggregates the findings into a single stream. They take this portfolio-wide reality check and send it straight to the top, delivering a comprehensive management status report to the Executive Governance Board. Armed with this raw feedback, governance evaluates if their strategy is actually viable. If new technology disrupts the market or a system limit is reached, they instantly pivot. They update policies, scrap old plans, and issue new directives downward. Abstract strategy is continuously forced to adapt to the unyielding constraints of engineering reality. Without this cycle, organizations suffer from architecture drift. Over time, the IT infrastructure slowly, quietly, disconnects from the actual value the business is trying to generate. By strictly separating governance and management and linking them with an aggressive 2-way feedback loop, you establish an ongoing cure for that drift. The ISO standard reframes architecture as an evolving ecosystem, one that remains in sync with the business environment through constant iteration. When market conditions shift, this cyclical engine allows a single policy update at the top to propagate as synchronized technical instructions across every system in the collection. For any organization attempting digital transformation, simply hiring a bunch of talented software architects won't get you there. True enterprise resilience requires building this continuous cycle of governance and management, keeping your technology and your strategy permanently locked together.